Okay, good morning. Mickey's bid hand is straight up. So y'all having a good conference so far? Yes? Yes? We're doing okay. Good conference. Are we having a good conference so far? Yes. Act enthusiastic and you'll be enthusiastic, right? Okay. Back 100 years ago when I had to take the speaking course at TI, that was one of the things we had to do. Act enthusiastic and you'll be enthusiastic. Felt like an idiot. It's just kind of like how I look right now, I think. But anyhow, welcome back. Welcome to day 2. As I corrected yesterday, dates next year are Monday and Tuesday, the only 2 free days on campus, 18th and 19th. So please mark your calendars for that. And without any further ado, we've got our first keynote. We've got 2 keynotes this morning. We'll have a coffee break in between. And then our final keynote will be around lunchtime. And so we'll just have track presentations this afternoon. When I think about our next keynote presenter, I met her, 5 years ago at this conference over when we were in the the ATEC auditorium. And she says, I'm thinking I want to maybe going back to school and getting my MBA. And I looked at her and said, gee, you're awful senior. Why do you think you need an MBA? She said, well, it might help me. And so it's been interesting watching her career over the last few years. And I think back to one of the ways I was taught to interview prospective employees was to kind of do a career journey. What's your career journey been? Where did you start out? How much did you earn? What did you learn? And then you look for progress along the way, right? Because you want to hire somebody that's grown in their career and done better. And so it's been fun watching Stacey's career grow the last few years. It seems like every time I get an email from her, she's got a new promotion and doing something different. And I said, gee, you might have some lessons learned that you could share here with the audience and make a good keynote presentation. And so I'm not going to ask you how much you earned along the journey, but I understand your presentation does talk about lessons you've learned in your career as a project manager and now as a vice president of a PMO, so that's pretty cool. So without any further ado, Stacey Cellier.
Thank you. I think I'm, am I on? Can you hear me? So welcome. I'm so excited to be here and be talking to you today. If you were here yesterday, I really enjoyed Carrie's presentation as well. I don't know if you were all here for that, but that was a lot of fun. I hope you had a great time in your sessions. All the sessions yesterday. I've been to this conference a few times, and I get so much out of it every time I come. They're always really interesting topics, and I get exposed to areas that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to otherwise. And I love to take those things back to the team and figure out how I can apply them to my little corner of the world. Sometimes, you're thinking you're in a presentation that has to do with transportation, and you got to figure out how is that going to, how am I going to bring that back and apply that to the team? And it's amazing how much you can find that no matter what we're doing and what industries we're in, the things that we have in common and the things that we can share here. So I love the collaboration and what this conference is all about. So I appreciate being here with you today. Better? Better? Yes. Okay, cool. So when Jim asked me to come and speak with you and thinking about, what did I really want to share with you? What did I want to talk about? Again, there's a lot of ground we could cover. So I started thinking about, what would be the right level of discussion? And I started reaching out and just looking around on Amazon, for example. What could you get on Amazon that you wouldn't get here today? There are over 30,000 results if you search Amazon books for project management. If you go out to PMI.org, there are over 10,000 different articles that you could read and research on project management, just on PMI alone. So again, I think we're here at sessions like this to share stories, to get new ideas and strategies, and for the sense of community that we all share. So with that in mind, I started thinking about a couple of Christmases ago. I was sitting around, had some free time. I was watching YouTube videos, and this video came up of this family, and it was at I think Thanksgiving or Christmas, And the family had blindfolded 2 of the men in their family and had laid out Legos and mousetraps all on the floor. These guys are bare feet, right? And the family's alongside, laughing and encouraging and witnessing their pain along the way. So the challenge was these 2 guys had to walk through the Legos and mousetraps and get to the end of a counter and pick up a spoon and eat a piece of cake or something, and they won, I guess, was the intent. And I laughed so hard at this video. These guys were just screaming and squealing, and then it kind of dawned on me. I called my whole family together, and I said, you guys have to watch this. This is project management. You want to know what I do all the time? It's that. So we face these Legos and mousetraps in our career within projects, and I think in just learning how to be good project managers. So before we get into some of the Legos and mousetraps, so we're going to touch on a few things that I learned along the way and want to share with you, but just a bit of history and background so you know where I'm coming from. So I started early career as a tax consultant in a startup company. I don't know if you've heard of it, Ryan Tax Consulting. I was the first employee there, so employee number 1, and they are now, I think their latest valuation was $1.3 billion. They have 45,000 customers. So I was there for the first 7 years of that company and helping them establish policies and procedures. And then I got the opportunity to actually become a tax consultant with the company. And I learned there, working with Ryan, to understand the why behind the work that I was doing. That was a very core principle for the company and something that I really took away from that experience. Then a couple steps later, I moved into banknote technology and security, so high-speed detection systems for banknote programs. The thing I learned there was PMP by fire or PMP at gunpoint. I don't know if any of you experienced that, but we had a large government contract that we had won, and we had to quickly get on board with PMBOK processes, PMBOK language, because that's what our customer expected of us. So that was an experience we will talk about again in a moment. Then moving into, at one point in my career, moving into a disruptive market in real estate. So I had the good fortune of working with a leader who had started a company called Invitation Homes. They took advantage of the distress in the housing market. And when I say took advantage of it, I think they really helped our economy in a big way. They went in and bought up, oh, thank you. Do I need this? Is that better? Oh, okay, all right, here we go. So I wave my hands a lot, so if that moves away, sorry. Working for a real estate market disruptor, so again, Invitation Homes, and it was, I think they really did a lot for families in the economy when the housing market was really distressed. They went in and scooped up all these homes and refurbished them and leased them back out. So those homes weren't sitting empty in communities. They did a lot of refurbishment and rehabilitation to them. But you can imagine what a company looks like when you're consuming 40,000 homes over the period of about 12 months, and 12 to 18 months, and then rehabbing them and leasing them back out, and just the engine that it takes to do that, and to do that in a somewhat organized way. So I helped them establish a project management office at that company. And I guess the main thing that I learned there was speed and scale were critical in a business that's, especially in a disruptor that's growing the way it did. But there's also a people factor. There was a lot of stress and a lot of churn in that kind of environment when you're trying to move that quickly, and having a balance of what you expect from people during times of rapid growth is something I really took away from that company. And then moving into healthcare, I moved into healthcare, unfortunately, because again, you're kind of pulled along your path, usually by major events in your life. I had an aunt who had gone into the hospital for back surgery, and they almost killed her. She got a hospital-acquired infection. She came away with sepsis, and we almost lost her, and I was really angry. How could she have gone in for treatment and expecting them to take care of her, and they actually made her much, much worse? So I then pivoted and figured out how can I get into healthcare? How can I understand why this happened and what's going on over there? And what I learned moving into the healthcare world is just very, very complex. I had to accept finally that at some point it's just people dealing with people, and people make mistakes. But I was fortunate enough to work on a project that was specifically focused around sepsis at this large healthcare company, and the benefit of that was 80 hospitals across the country. The company had been working on and kind of picking at how to deal with sepsis for a long time, and we were able to pull in a very aggressive way, pull a team together from experts across the country, put a real sepsis program together using good project management practices. We got a team together, actually developed and executed on a project, and were able to save, by the time we officially stopped the project counting, we had saved what we estimate of 2,000 lives for people from dying from sepsis. So really proud of that. But that's a bit of background and how I got here. And now I'm at a company which I am truly in love with, truly happy and proud to be part of, and that's Solis Mammography. We are the largest independent provider of women's imaging services in the country. We have about 60 centers in 13 states across the country, 975 employees or so, and we are set to do about 900,000 procedures across the country this year. And what we do, and why I'm so proud of working for Solis, is that we care deeply about women's health, especially women's breast health. We are a breast imaging company, so mammography services, and we like to say that we stop just short of harassment in getting women back in for their annual mammograms. We know that when you detect cancers early in a patient, that they have a much better chance of survival. So when the company started looking at why aren't more women getting their annual mammograms, the question was asked, like, why aren't women coming back? Because insurance generally covers it at 100%. So why would you not do this every year? And some of the answers were, it's too clinical, it's very inconvenient, it's scary. The people aren't really kind when I come in, and I've got a million other things to do. I'm a mom, I'm a grandma. There are a million other things that I could be doing than having what I consider a really bad experience. So we set about to change that. Our centers are very warm and welcoming, and we put them more in a retail, easily accessible setting. We try to get results back to our patients within 24 to 48 hours, so there's a peace of mind consideration there for our patients. And our message is really resonating. So we have a 91% approval rating for patients that come into our center, 91% satisfaction rating, which means to us, they want to come back. So getting them back in the door every year and making sure that we see them on a consistent basis every year so we can hit that early detection mark and make sure women don't wait and don't get to the point where there is a major problem that now is going to impact their lives and their families' lives. So with that, and there is a very high demand for growth and for our centers across the country. So the Solis PMO, how do we support the growth of Solis? A couple of fun facts before we get into what our PMO does. Our PMO is 75% women. We have some very diverse backgrounds on our team, one including an Instagram famous baker. It was really fun when she came into the office for the first time, and people see her walk by, and a couple of people actually recognized her from her Instagram baking fame. And at any time, we are managing about 34,000 tasks and growing new centers and executing on strategic projects. One other thing that I love about Solis and why I am so thrilled to be part of the team there is that the PMO reports directly to the CEO of the company, and we have a seat at the table in the executive team. So we are there in the discussions.
We are part of the discussions. We are involved in the conversations. And I can't tell you what a difference that makes when you're talking about the level of growth and flexibility and velocity that our company is experiencing right now. It really short-circuit a lot of that translation layer that seems to happen if you're not involved in those executive level discussions. We can very quickly get to what needs to change. We have the information, PMO has the information to help inform those decisions and adapt and flex very quickly. So a little bit of history about the Solis PMO. I would say we had more of a loose coalition of project managers than a true PMO, and when the project management office started up. And we deliver now in 4 channels of business across the company. We have new center delivery, so we open new centers across the country. We also do partner integration, so we are mainly in a JV model where we integrate with hospital partners. So there is a whole team within the PMO that just does partner onboarding and partner integration. We also handle strategic projects, so that internal facing work for executing on strategy, our team handles as well. And then we have a group for reporting and analytics. We are very big on data, and the amount of data that the PMO actually can generate and provide as analytics and intelligence back to the organization. So first project managers were hired in 2007. I started in March of last year. We then quickly launched the PMO, onboarded 20 team members, launched the PMIS, launched a project quality department. There was no quality department within the company, so we launched that under the project management office. We put project financial systems in place. We actually recovered and relaunched one of the largest projects the organization had ever experienced. And then we actually were able to measure and return a positive investment to the organization within the first year. So if you want to know what project management can do or what project management does for an organization, this is a graph I love. So in the first year of operations, we helped the organization deliver twice the number of centers that they had delivered the year before, and we're set to double that number again in year 2. So having good project management support, having a seat at the table, and really engaging and being a core part of how our company operates has helped us achieve this velocity. And again, it helps us fulfill our mission. We want to get out to as many women in this country as we possibly can. And the PMO is, I feel, really helping the organization get there. We also established the strategic project group. So when we came in to look at, what are we working on, what's important to the organization, went around and did a survey with different folks across the company. What are you working on? What are your priority projects? Not just kind of within your department. What do you think are the main priorities of the company? There were 118 different answers that we received. Not untypical when you're really kind of doing that first assessment of what's needed for project management or PMO services. Then we narrowed that down. We scoped it down and identified 20 high priority projects. And then we moved to, okay, we know also 20 is way too many. If everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. So we narrowed that down again to critical 5. What are the 5 big things that we need to get done as an organization this year? And those are the things that we put project managers on. We help the rest of the organization learn how to be good project managers within their departments, how to communicate with each other, but this is where you get the lift from project managers. So we focus on, we support just those really critical initiatives. Also happy to report that Please Root for USA. We were selected and are representing the USA at the PMO Global Awards. So we are in a stage right now where it's sort of like World Cup, the way that they have it organized. So you go against, I think there's 64 countries in the competition. So we'll be competing for the PMO for North America, and then that goes on to the Global PMO of the Year. So wish us luck. All right, so background about the Solis PMO and kind of where we are right now. And I want to now share with you what I think, in my experience, are 3 keys to success in project management. Show up, dig in, and peace out. So we talked about Legos and Mousetrap. Mousetrap number 1, I solved the wrong problem. Yay, me. Any of you experienced this before? Had someone show up with, yeah, not really what I was looking for, but great job. So a little actual real-world example of I solved the wrong problem. We had a very, very large conversion from a managed services provider, one managed services provider to another. It seemed like, it was going to be a lift and shift, but it actually wasn't. It was much, much more than that. We had to really dig down. We had to totally restructure the program. There was a reason why we were moving from one provider to another, and uncovering the reasons behind what we needed there was what was really needed. But our vendor partner showed up, bless her heart, with, so we had like 72 facilities that or hospitals that we were having to convert from one provider to another. And the project manager came to the table with, she had really done a whole lot of work in creating 72 different project plans. So she had 72 different sets of business requirements. It was beautiful. I mean, that was a lot of work, obviously, that went on there. But when this project manager showed up with her implementation plan, what do you think our team did? We immediately were on the offense, right? Because obviously she hadn't done her background work. She hadn't talked to us yet to see what are you guys needing? What's your approach? We didn't have those discussions. She just showed up with, here's my solution, and hope you guys get on board with it. And it just wasn't the best experience in starting out that project overall. It didn't give us a good sense of confidence that this partner had listened to us, that knew what we needed, and that they were ready to really deeply engage with us and get this project done. So we learned quite a bit from that. And I would say the moral of this story is show up, and show up fully engaged. And what I mean by that is, like, ask questions. It sounds simple, but you would be amazed at how often I see that not happening. Sponsors are depending on you. If you don't show up fully engaged and prepared, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you won't get the opportunity again. Sponsors need you to be the project manager, and they need to trust you. You got to understand where your sponsors are coming from, what challenges they're facing, what VUCA they're facing, and their role, and what success looks like to them. And just build confidence that you'll bring value to the project. And there is no substitute for showing up prepared and engaged and asking the right questions. So Mousetrap Slayer. This is, so not directly, I would say, related to the, like, show up prepared, but this is a tool that I have found that really cuts to the core of creating success metrics that work. Knowing where you're going, knowing where the team's going, knowing where you're headed, and it's a project scorecard. We learned the tough way when we opened our first few centers that even though we were technically executing on many of the elements that we had to execute on for our new center openings, the center team didn't feel like our projects were successul. They didn't feel like they had a great first day. They didn't feel like they had a great first week. And so we started unpacking that, and well, if all the data got transferred right, the images got transferred right, there was training involved, like we hit each of the individual elements, but somehow it wasn't really coming together. So this is actually came out of being in the UTD PM program. It was during a time I was in the organizational behavior and negotiating courses, and what I was learning and reading at the time really led me to, let's go ask the actual team that is going to be in the center, or the leaders on the first day. Ask them, what does a perfect day one look and feel like to you. So that opened our eyes. I cannot tell you how amazing this simple tool is. Because there were things like answers that we received, such as, I want to be able to leave at 5 o'clock. On the first day, I want to be able to leave the center on time. That to me means everything went smoothly. Well, what do you think would hold you up from that? And we discovered there are some things like even if a report was queued for too long, not something that really hit the level of requirements management that we were looking at, but if that report stayed in the queue too long and the team member couldn't work it on time, they weren't going to be able to get out of the center on time that day. So it may sound like small things, but this empowered our team and their team in a couple major ways. So our team now has, besides their requirements, that's a given. You're going to work your requirements. You're going to go through your RVTM. That is table stakes stuff. We got to do it. This, though, holds the mirror up to the entire team, training, operations, IT. Everyone has a scoreboard that we're looking at that says, this is what, at the end of the day, we have to get done. This is where we're headed. This is where we're going. It also helps the stakeholders know that we are listening to them. It's also amazingly empowering to have that group be responsible for approving their scorecards. So for a center opening, we give the team a center opening scorecard. We train them on how it's going to work, and they score us every day. In every element that they have told us, this is what a perfect day one looks like, they give us a check mark. It's yes or no. We try to get all fancy and do some scoring elements and, oh, maybe we need to balance and we need to, have a 5-point scale. No, yes or no. It works or it doesn't work. And so they give us a pass or fail every day until everything has passed. This also, we took this same concept and applied it to that major strategic project that we were rolling out. And so every center had a scorecard that they were measuring us on when we rolled out that new technology platform. And it really helped ease the minds of the team members that were on the ground, that were going to be on the receiving end of this new technology implementation, because, again, they felt like we heard them, we were listening to them. And some of the things that came out of that scorecard as well were, I want to feel like I was adequately trained. We have a fantastic and phenomenal training department, but when we asked them to tell us what perfect day one looked like, that helped us discover or unearth some of the things that they were feeling anxious about and helped us address those things up front. And we left it on the scorecard so they can give us a green. And so we heard you, we're listening to you, the actual end result matters to us, and we took that feedback every day, so across 80 centers, across multiple functional areas. We use Smartsheet. I don't know if any of you in here are Smartsheet users or Smartsheet fans. Super easy way to throw in all these scorecards, give people access to them, have them do their updates, and then we were able to aggregate those. So if you look, I think we had 53 centers at the time. So looking across 53 centers, and we were able to pull those up every day, and that was a great way for us to also see hotspots. So are we trending red, across the organization in one particular area? And it also helped our team to quickly triage those issues. I don't know, we of course have our standard ticketing system, so this is outside of that. Ticketing issues go through the standard ticketing system, but I don't know how else we would have been able to react that quickly to things that bubbled up as we were rolling that project out. So again, and we could slice it by, are we having a particular issue in a particular market? Is it across one of the domains? So really, really helpful. I really encourage you to think about if there's an application that you could use scorecarding on, because it has made a tremendous difference for us. And like I said up here, it keeps the care-abouts up front. We use that word a lot, care-abouts. That keeps the care-abouts front and center for the entire execution team and for the team on the ground. All right, mousetrap number 2. I have 49 process areas, and I'm not afraid to use them. Anybody been in that boat? I was really good at my job before I got my PMP, and I was really lousy at it after I got my PMP, like really bad. So I told you a little bit about the PMP by fire, and that was a really terrible experience for me. I was so excited when I discovered that there was actually this thing called PMI, and there was this thing called project management. I really didn't know. I mean, I was just running projects. I was kind of unaware PM. And so I got my PMI membership, and I got my PMBOK, and I was so excited, and I got some training, so I had like 3-inch double-sided binders, and how did I ever do a project before I had all this stuff? You know, how was I ever successful at anything without all these tools? And it really vapor locked me. I was totally overwhelmed. I didn't know where to start. I became terrible for my team. They did not like me at all after I started doing all this because I wasn't being helpful. I had figured out how to like conditionally format and color code my my issues register, but I wasn't engaged with the team. I had really fallen prey to over documentation and making the tools work and not work for the project or for the team. And yeah, they didn't like me very much at all. So what I learned from that, though, was there's just never a substitute for getting it. I wasn't getting it. I was getting the documentation and I was getting the paperwork, but I wasn't listening to the team and what they needed and what they were going through and what they wanted at the time or what actual roadblocks. I was capturing stuff in the registers, but I wasn't listening to what the team needed or what they were trying to get accomplished. I mean, they were creating a detection system that was looking at 20 different features in a banknote and analyzing each of those 20 features and making a yes/no decision before the banknote got to the end of a 20-foot sorting machine. Never been done. Totally complicated and revolutionary, and I was badgering them for status reports. It was not a good time. So, moral of the story, again, never a substitute for getting it. But I think even further than that, I'm going to go out on a limb. I've read a lot of articles on this recently, AI and project management, et cetera. But if you're just gatekeeping, I'm not sure there's going to be a lot of value for that in organizations going forward. The software is improving so much. The software can do a lot of that for the team, which is great for us. I think that's fantastic progress for project management. I would love for the technology to do the mundane, routine stuff, and I would love for us to be that level up, where we're true partners and really engaging with our sponsors to help them move a project forward. We got to connect the dots on meaning, and I say dig into the zones. I know we got a lot of great guts in here, and a lot of good spidey sense in here. And when your spidey sense is going off and you follow that path and you ask them questions, pretty often you're going to be right in sorting those things out. I also think knowing your role and your level of ownership should be crystal clear. I think that was my challenge when I got totally vapor locked on how to be a project manager. Was I was the only PM in the organization. I don't know if any of you are in that boat, but I didn't have any other guidance. So it was just kind of me and my PMBOK and trying to figure it out. So I think making sure that you know your role and it's crystal clear is really important. So one of the things we do, so Mousetraps layer on that one is we've got a couple, and one is we are very clear in our PMO how we break down projects. So, and this is one tool. I mean, there are many, but I think anything that you can get on one page is a win. So it's simple and clear and concise. You can explain it to someone, on an elevator in 30 seconds. Everybody gets it. So we break down our projects, and again, we go much deeper into actual RACI and team member roles and responsibilities from a portfolio perspective. We either track, we advise, or we manage on a project. So tracking, we just work with the sponsor. This is something, it's a departmental project. We want to give you the tools and resources to learn how to manage projects on your own, and we're going to help you just track them at the portfolio level. Or we advise, so if it's something that's a little more complicated, you need a little more of an advising role. I love being internal consultants to the organization, but we are going to advise you on that, and then we just help you track it afterwards. We're not deeply engaged in the day-to-day on those. Managing is where we come in. Again, it's those big 5 projects, the big strategic efforts. You got to come and really make your business case in order to get a project manager engaged on a project. But then we're partners, so we partner with the business owner. So the business owner knows, the PM knows. You're jointly, arm in arm, going to move forward with that project. And I also think making your methodology clear and simple is really critical. So we say we are best practice based, but we take a best fit approach. So having a flexible methodology, I think, gets you out of that becoming rote and becoming routine and sometimes missing the big picture, again, if you're just following the bouncing ball on methodology. One project, you all know this, when one doesn't look exactly like the next, the tools aren't going to look exactly like the next from project to project. All right, mousetrap number 3, how to wreck a stakeholder relationship in 3 easy steps. I'm sure you guys, I know none of you have done this, but maybe you've experienced other project managers who have filled this role. So wield your executive sponsor's name like Valerian steel. They love that. Teams love that. We had one internal project that we worked on that the leader went around so much saying, our boss was Ted, and she said, well, Ted wants this, and Ted needs that, and Ted, and Ted, and Ted. And the team finally started calling her Ted said, because that's how she started every sentence, Ted said. So don't be a Ted said. And then bulldozing your way through to the end, we've all met those PMs, like, I'm just gonna get it done. I've been tasked with that, I have the cape, I'm going for it. And they just kind of leave a path of destruction along the way. Maybe the project gets accomplished, but was it a great experience? Did we feel like we won that one? If you're really, again, kind of leaving a bunch of bodies in your wake along the way. I tell my team that anybody can do one project. I feel like it's not that it's complicated, but it's the second project and the third project and the fourth project that I would like to measure you on, because that means you've built relationships. That means you've done the hard thing in the right way. So, and escalating with reckless abandon, sponsors love it. Who cares if the team doesn't trust you? So, moral of the story here, don't be a jerk. Success doesn't lie in getting projects done by leaving that path of destruction. And this is the one I really, that's key to me, key to our team, is measure yourself not just on what you accomplished, but how you accomplished it. How did you get there? Measure yourself on that. How did I do? Did I wind up making a call to burn a bridge because I really needed to get that thing done? How did that feel? Probably not very good. Know your value system and guiding principles. And again, I think the talent in great project management is leaving the team with a great experience. You can do it easy or you can do it hard. Sometimes easy is actually the harder route. So we have, on our team, we have very clear values and principles that we use. We all have them up on our boards. We promote them within the team, and then we try to cascade that out beyond our team as well. Our values are, we will be approachable, we'll be respectful of differing ideas and values, we promote a culture where collaboration is a core value, we want to nourish a positive and supportive environment, we want to be passionate about project and change management, and then of course we support the mission and vision of Solis. And all that kind of wraps itself around Solis's mission and vision as well. I mean, if we want our if we want our centers and our experience for our patients to be warm and welcoming and caring, then our team, all the way up across the organization, we all need to be reflecting that every day. Because whatever you're doing at the organization level is going to permeate. There is no separate culture in my mind between what happens at different levels in the organization. So our principles, and I love these because I think you can take these out and apply them to a specific team, a project team as well, if you want to just set some ground rules. We are still working on our team absorbing these and living these principles. We want to get it right for ourselves first, and then start to push that out more broadly across our projects. But important things to us are dependability, so our team members get things done on time and meet expectations. We have structure and clarity. We have clear goals and well-defined roles within the group. Our work has meaning, so significance to each team member. And that's important, that we're addressing each team member where they are and addressing what's important to them. That we have impact. We believe our work's purposeful and positively impacts the greater good. That's pretty easy to do at Solis. But I would challenge you to look for that in your organization as well. I think it matters to every single team member. And then, of course, psychological safety. And this is a big one, and this is, I think, the hardest one to do. Everyone's safe to take risk, voice their opinions, and ask judgment-free questions. If you were here for Carrie yesterday, and she was talking about being vulnerable and the fear that can come with exposing yourself or standing up and asking the question, it really resonated with me in what she was talking about yesterday, and how much I think this applies to, how to be good project managers as well, and letting your own team, ask those questions, and then once they start getting that muscle memory of how to do that within the team, I think it'll be really easy for them to then model that and expect that same behavior on the teams that they're managing. So our results out of this, just this part of our values and principles and how we manage our team, we have less than 5% voluntary turnover. We have 15% of our PMO team have been promoted out to other teams in the organization. So we like to say, we're kind of an internal consulting firm, right? So we get to put people out in different parts of the business. Great for us because there's allies out there now, right, in different parts of the org. But you have to be open with your team about allowing them to explore that. If you are very, it's PMO or die, then you may find yourself you're losing your project managers outside of your organization, rather than giving them opportunities, finding out what they need, where they are, where they want to go, and helping them get there, whether it's with you or with another department. So, and we've really established credibility and a pull for PMO resources. Again, we got people knocking on our door every day. Can you help us? Can you show up? And to me, I think that's a good sign of success for a project management organization, is when people are raising their hand and say, "We need you. We want you. Can you please come and help us out?" So, and parting words for my dear friend Lee Lambert. He, PMI fellow. I don't know if you guys follow him on social media or know who he is. Follow him on LinkedIn. He is good for a laugh every day. He's so opinionated, and he's so passionate about project managers. But one of the quotes I heard on his, he had a podcast that he was doing an interview on this week, and I do want to also thank him for guidance and feedback on what I was talking with you about today. But he says this a lot too. Project managers don't do the work; they get work done through other people. And I totally agree with him on almost every single word in this statement, except the 3 part. I think we get work done with other people. So collaboration is critically important. So to wrap up, again, to summarize the success in project management, again, show up, dig in, and peace out. Engage deeply, know what success looks and feels like. That was our scorecarding. Ask the challenging questions. Don't be afraid to ask the challenging questions. That's why you're here. And then please measure yourself not just on what you accomplished, but how you accomplished it. I think as project management professionals and as a group, we can do a lot by leaving people with a great experience on all the projects that we work on. So that's my talk.
Thank you.
And questions, I think? Any questions?
It looks like a lot of what you're doing really relies upon the culture of the company, not just of the PMO. Is the culture of the company aligned, and has it always stayed aligned with the culture you have in PMO?
That's a great question. So just to summarize, if you couldn't hear, the question was, a lot of what we're doing seems to rely on the culture of the company, and has it always been that way, or have they always coexisted? Since I can answer that in two ways. One, because we're a new PMO, we do have the benefit of coming into an organization that I am astounded at, that the culture of the company and what an amazing job our leadership has done in establishing that for all of us. But I have applied many of these same principles to a different organization, and it worked just as well. The scorecarding is a new thing, but the guiding principles and core values I have used before, and I think if you're doing it within the group, no matter what the culture of the organization, you can figure out a way to bring that out, but it is much harder. It's much harder.
From your talk, do you have what would be considered an executive level PMO? That's one question. And I see that your vice president of PMO is on the executive staff. Mm-hmm. Is that position moving towards what might be considered a chief project officer as another title?
I think that's a great idea. My CEO is here, so what do you think, James? Yeah, that's where I would like to see it go for sure. But just having a seat at the table, the title is not as significant to me, I think, as our voice being a part of the discussion, and it's not an afterthought. I mean, we are there, at the table helping the company make decisions, especially around strategy execution. Do we have the right resources? Can we absorb this right now? Those kind of discussions. So thank you for that. Okay, I think there's one here and one here.
What % of your C-suite is women?
Oh, really good question. So of the 9, there are 2. So who's math? Whatever percentage that is, but yeah. We have 2 representatives that are female right now. And I would say, though, that as you go out from there, we have a very high representation of vice president roles across the organization, many more than I've seen in any other company that I work with. So,
since your PMO is only 2 years old, what led the leadership team, or what factors led the leadership team to establish the PMO?
That's a great question. Maybe I should let James answer that. But I think it was the belief in what project management can do for the company. We knew we had, again, hospital partner integrations that we were going to need to accomplish, new center openings that we knew, and those are, you talk real estate, legal, every part of the organization that was going to touch, and I think it just made sense to them. Like, if we're actually going to grow at the velocity that we need to grow, we need discipline. We need some linchpin that brings all these groups together and helps us really achieve that goal.
So I have a question. So it seems like you started the PMO completely from scratch. So how did you, what was the lessons learned? How did you go about it in terms of using the template and structuring the initial part? Because I'm sure a lot of the folks or stakeholders that were expecting you to put all this together were expecting a lot of things from you, and you had to get them all on board in terms of, this is what we're going to do. So I know when it's brand new, it's kind of like you need a direction for all this. So did you bring in a consultant, or how did you go about all this?
That's a great question. So how did we go about establishing the PMO to start with? And it was quick wins. So getting in and figuring out where do we need to go immediately to deliver the most value to the organization. So looking at, we had some work ahead of us around our new centers and making sure we were executing on those and as perfectly as possible, and then expanding the ring out from there. So again, when we were doing that strategic projects analysis, we quickly identified the top 20 or so projects, and then our project governance and intake process after that was no. So we didn't have a whole lot of putting business requests together. It was just no. We're gonna get executed what we've got on our plate right now, and pick a few things that we know are critical, and then again start with the bullseye, and then move the ring out from there, and also being able to demonstrate how are these projects returning value to the organization. So we had to quickly assess how are we going to be measured at the end of next year on the investment that the company is making now, and start to put those key metrics in place so that we could demonstrate, not just, yes, we got centers open, but some sort of tangible measure. So looking at capitalizing our work, we were able to help the organization look at what do we need to be capitalizing on project investments. So that was an immediate, those are like quick wins that we were able to establish starting out. Did that answer your question?
Yes, you did, but I had an additional question. So, like say you limited X projects you wanted to finish, and then you created this structure. Did you create your process based on those projects, like requirement template or tracking risks, issues?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. And again, there were a few project managers that were kind of a loose coalition within the organization focused on center openings. And it had gotten, the tools that they were using had gotten very complex. So we skinnied it down. Like, what are the couple of things? We need issues register. We need to make sure we have a schedule. We need a communication plan with a partner, and started from there, and kind of took all those things back to let's focus on a few core things, and then again we can perfect and refine over time. So,
thank you.
You're welcome.
It seems like your PMO got to a high maturity level in a short period of time. Do you agree with that? And how did you get there? What was the trick for making that happen?
I would say we are always evolving. I mean, we're always growing. From a maturity level, I feel good about what we've accomplished and where we've gotten in a year. But I think we've still got a long way to go. There's always more. We always want to get better. But again, it was just focusing on what are the critical success factors right now. And it's really hard sometimes. Just like I was overwhelmed with PMP stuff because there was just so much. We had to keep the team super focused on what are the critical results we need right now. And then again, then we can start to figure out how to expand that ring from there. But we just couldn't boil the ocean on day one. So picking up, which projects are critical, who's on point, what's the health status of those, which ones need the most intervention right now, and what are we going to do about the ones that we can't have high touch? Who are we going to have really pay attention to those?
We have a next question here.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. When you said no because your plate was full, did you have stakeholders who chose to move their initiatives forward by going around the PMO?
Great question, and no, because again we are engaged at the senior level. There wasn't anywhere else to go. We had to all stack hands as an executive team that we just can't get it all, although we want to. We can't get it all done at once, and we had to sit around and look at each other and say, which are the priorities? And it couldn't be a mine versus yours. It was what was best for the company, and narrowing it down that way. I think it helps. I've been in that situation though, where you just get someone that can navigate around you and do the Ted said thing, and all of a sudden your resources are evaporating, working on something else. So yeah, you're welcome. Right here and here.
Hi, good morning. I'm Becca Alexander.
Becca.
Thank you for coming.
Oh, there you go. Good.
You mentioned a tool called Smartsheet, and I'm leading a transformation program at PepsiCo for our IT supplier management function, and dashboarding and measuring is a challenge for me personally. Can you tell me more about the Smartsheet and how you were using it for your program?
Yes, certainly. We selected Smartsheet as our PMIS. I've used it. This is probably the 5th time I've used it. I was kind of an early adopter with their program. I like to call it Excel on crack because it functions a lot like it can function just like an Excel sheet if you want it to, but it has there's so much more capability that it can do. Again, you can roll up things across projects. You can have multiple, people kind of using and working in the same space at the same time, which is really great. It doesn't have all the horsepower that you're going to find in a Microsoft project and a lot of those tools. But if you're looking for, you got to get some Gantt charts together and work breakdown structures together and have a way to have everything in one space and look across those projects. Then I think it's a great tool. And we use it because you can flex with it. You can use it for a lot of different ways, like the scorecarding that we're rolling up, but also we have all our Gantt charts, et cetera, in that tool. And it's really great too because it does act a lot more, like Excel spreadsheets, or you've got common data fields if you set it up right. So now these 34,000 tasks that we're managing across all these new center openings, we've got a great data set now that we can as we start to mature, now we've got some history and we can start to look at where do we have pockets of opportunity that we can shorten cycles, look at do we really need to be doing the task in these order or doing these this way, or these seem to take longer in this market than this market, so there's a rich data set there that comes along with investing in that tool as well.
Can you talk a little bit more about the metrics you use
where are you? Oh, there you go. Okay.
Can you talk a little bit more about the metrics you use to quantify the positive investment in the PMO?
So primarily centered around the return that we get from our partner engagements. So one thing we were able to do is look at what is the reimbursement that we're getting from our partners for opening centers, because it's a joint venture. So both parties are paying in. So as one of the things that we stood up immediately also was a time capture system. We weren't doing any time reporting before. So you can capture time, therefore you can charge it back to the joint venture, therefore we can demonstrate the value that we're bringing just there and being able to capture those things and provide some more revenue to the organization, and also, again, helping the financial team look at our investment in projects and are we treating them financially in the right way and demonstrating some investment there. So we were really looking more at the immediate ways that we could demonstrate returns, and I'm sure as that stabilizes, we'll need to pivot a little bit and look at other ways that we can measure our contribution.
Question over here. Hello.
Hi.
Great talk, thank you.
Thank you.
Quick question. You mentioned that some of your PMs have gone on to leadership positions within your company, and I'd like you to talk a little bit more about that, because we've seen within our PMO great success, but folks feel, I think, a little limited about their career opportunities. So were folks identified through leading projects by functional areas? And just if you could talk a little bit more about that.
Yes, happy to. So we have one of our project leaders who I actually brought in she has PMP, great mammography background, radiologist, rad tech, so all the experience that we needed to come in. And we brought her in full time to be a director over our clinical applications projects, and her talent was quickly discovered and how talented she was on the IT side of the organization. So once we got her through that, helping us recover and deliver on that project, they made an opening for her on the IT side. So she is vice president of clinical applications now for the organization. And we have another person too who was brought in to kind of help backfill for her, and he has also moved over to IT applications. So and then we have a person who has moved to finance as well. So I really like to again see what is your interest. Is this a long-term thing for you, or is this a spot where you want to come in and learn more about the business, because it is a fantastic place to come in, kind of, you know, an internal consultant, learn all the different areas of the business while we're helping, you know, the business execute, and then you're exposed to, you know, all the different areas. And I do work with my partners to say, hey, if you have something over here, I think this PM may be interested in heading that direction. Let's talk about it. So, yes.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
I see that you brought on quite a few PMs in a very short time.
We did.
So I wanted to understand how your approach. Did you use consulting companies or contract companies that contract to hire? And how did you, I mean, that was quite a bit to take on in a very short time, so I want to better understand how you went about that.
It was. Sleep is overrated, first of all. And a lot of it, again, back to Carrie's presentation yesterday, was network. You know, I had some folks in my network. I know this person's great at this. I know this person's great at this. Hey, you looking? I got a great company here. Let's talk. So a lot of it was that, you know, people that I had worked with in the past, not the prayer company, because that's not allowed, but just working the network, and then they bring people in, and then they know, you know, I got a friend here. And a lot of that was from just network connections. And then we did use a contractor agency that we had already engaged in the company, who I quickly learned to trust, because he was bring a couple good people, and then I trust you, and then you know, we kind of go and grow from there. But those networks are really important.
So are you looking for resumes?
Actually.
Because they're looking at your email address up there on the slide.
Yeah, there you go. Healthcare and healthcare IT experience, always, yeah.
I was curious how much of your recent significant growth is build out of new centers versus acquisition of existing centers, and more specifically to the PMO, how do you approach, it's pretty self-evident to install a culture from the ground up in a new center, but if some of your growth is acquisitions, what are some of your insights in how to transform cultures that you're acquiring to fit what Solis is trying to do?
Ooh, that is a really good question. Because we do, so if we're going into a joint venture partnership, sometimes we are taking the existing breast center and converting it to a mammography center. So we do have de novos where it's all new employees, and you're right, that's different. I don't know that one's easier or harder, but when you're moving people over from a hospital-based environment to a Solis environment, it's there are some challenges with that. I would say from a culture and people perspective, though, we have such a great story, and we have lots of great programs for our employees. Our HR is absolutely phenomenal. Often it's not a hard sell. You know, they're actually really looking forward to it. It's just the transition and making sure we're helping people navigate from where they are and the processes they're using now to what they're going to be doing at Solis. So we do a lot of current state analysis. All of our functional areas go out and touch the teams that are going to be converting to us, and make sure we understand what they're coming from and what they're going to, so that we can onboard them successfully. Does that answer your question? I would say 2 to 1. Okay. Yay, thanks, James. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
Curious as far as any aha moments that you had when you were going through the MBA program. So you should love this question since you got your project management degree.
One of those. What was the question? I'm sorry.
What were some aha moments that you had during the process of getting your MBA, and then after you completed it, that you could apply to your business?
Oh, thank you for that question. So I am actually still I'm about this far from completing the program. I've got most of it completed, but job and life and things kind of slow. I take the circuitous path, right, Jim?
Yeah, the 5-year plan.
Yeah. So even in the core classes, because I thought, the first year is PM core and, the certificate program. And I thought, I've been doing this a while, like, I should be able to kind of breeze through these classes and then I'll move on to the meaty stuff. And I got so much out of the PM certification classes as well, especially around the requirements management classes. I thought I got some new muscles, I think, and started looking at things in a little different way. For the requirements classes, we had a scheduling competition where we had to pick resources, and I also thought I was going to do really great at that. I was the worst one of everyone, so that showed me that I had a blind spot there that I needed to shore up and work on. And then the organizational behavior class was something that, it just really hit me at the right time and resonated, and I was able to go apply it like right away. So highly recommend it. And no matter what level of career you're in, there are just so many things that you can just take away and apply, and the teaching staff is phenomenal. So.
We have the next question here.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Vittal. We also have started PMO in our organizations recently and setting up the standards. So I just wanted to ask you a question. Like you said in your presentation that you have quality department added into the PMO.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to understand like what all the processes and methodologies have been used as part of those to get that into the PMO.
So good question. So the processes to get it into the PMO, there was a bit of debate whether that should be under IT. So it didn't exist, and we knew as project management have to have it. I don't see a way through projects successfully without a strong QA team and a strong QA department. So we made the case that is we should never get projects all the way outside of our doors or our team without having that capability and capacity. So again, just brought them in under the PMO. They have since, as of January, we have moved them over to IT because there's a very strong leadership team on the IT side of the house now, and so it made sense for us to move them over there. But from a methodology perspective, I think it was a great way for that team to be stood up because they were deeply connected to us and the end results that are needed in our centers and with our partners and on our projects. So I feel like they have a really great starting point and a kind of a mindset to go from as they have now moved over to the IT team. So we partnered with them very closely for test plans, test cases, et cetera.
Hi. My name is Vasanthi Cellier.
Hi.
Hi. Great feedback. Really love your presentation. Thank you. I just had a question on the customer feedback. I know you said that you would give that survey form to the people that you're actually implementing the project, and they would give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And sometimes some of that feedback cannot be incorporated back. So how do you handle, like, say, a negative feedback that you can't really solve?
Oh, good question. So when we build those scorecards, so we do lessons learned and just general feedback on how the project went. But for our scorecarding process, we make sure that we know what a win looks like on every single one of those elements, and we again, so it's kind of black and white, and some of it is I feel like I was trained adequately. That's a little bit of a feel thing, but we have a training team that works closely with them until they say, I feel like I'm good. So if that helps answer your question. Okay. Yes.
Mine is more of a comment than a question. And it was just very interested to see project management with Solis Mammography. And I just wanted to say that I am a customer of Solis Mammography. And just to put a plug in for Solis, for anybody that's looking for a place to get their mammogram.
Please come.
Excellent.
Yes.
It's excellent.
Awesome.
I did my first mammogram there, and I've been coming ever since than to do that. So yes, it's a perfect place.
Thank you. That means the world. Oh, we got to hear here too. That's what we need. Thank you so much. Thank you.
We have our next question here.
What is the Solis vision statement that the PMO is implementing? And what was the vision of setting up Solis? How is that, because you're responsible for implementing it, and who maintains in your executive staff the focus on that vision?
Who maintains on our staff or on?
At the corporate level, who's the visionary that's maintaining that so that this vision stays as the main vision that Solis is headed to do? What's the vision? You know, like Gates had a vision, Jobs had a vision. That's what made those companies move forward. What's the vision of your company that's being executed?
Great question. So to be the leader in women's health, we focus right now on mammography and mammography services, but our vision is to expand that and really be the place that women want to come and they feel, again, warm and welcomed and cared, and that we are compassionate and that we're easy and efficient. So we operate on those principles. And to answer your question, our vice president of HR, who again sits at the senior executive team, is responsible for helping us check in and make sure that our vision and mission and our goals are all still relevant, and then she cascades those down. Yeah. You're welcome.
Question over here. Hi. Hi. I'm one of those people who went 3 years between the mammography, and I noticed that time frame coincided with when the PMO was being created. And I want to say that the experience when I went in 2 weeks ago for it was completely different and so much better. I really liked when you were talking about how you all went in and asked women, why don't you come back more often? And then you changed things. And I can attest that things really did change. It was completely different. I'm ready to sign up for the annual program now. But I wanted to know, the PMO, what role did you all play in making things different in the centers?
So that was very much set by James, who unfortunately had to scoot. But the vision for why women weren't showing up and how can we go about, and they actually did right brain research on why were women avoiding it, and it was, again, clinical setting. They associated it with breast cancer. So if you notice, if you go to our centers or look at our material, we don't use pink at all, because pink in women's minds means breast cancer. So we avoid that color altogether. So the details like that. So our goal or our mission in the PMO, even though that was established and well set, and part of the reason I love the company, but we maintain that within our team. So for example, when we're opening a center, it's not just, do we have all the right functional pieces in place, but we state every time we're kicking off a new center opening, this is how many more women in this area are going to get the benefit of coming to Solis every year. We say there are 700 more women that are going to now be able to experience our service, and that's how we frame our kickoff decks and our when we're kicking our projects. So.
We have time for one more question. Okay, I'll ask it. So I heard you tend to focus on the big 5 projects. But I think I also heard you say that you support all these other projects that are going on in Solis run by the other project managers.
We track them, yes.
Is it just tracking, or are you providing tools or any kind of training or support for those project managers?
We do maintain the dashboard overall. So we also want to make sure that organizationally we're not doing too much, and that our team can see, besides those big 5, I know there are other things that have to kind of just get done. But we do provide, we advise our teams. We have lunch and learns. We give them standard tools. Smartsheet is a great one. We have a standard business case template that we train our leaders on how to use and kind of how to get through that process. But we ask them to get through that process before something gets on the dashboard, so that we know they've thought through what they need to be doing and that we're on board with their plan, and then they just go run it.
Sir, multimodal PMO then.
Yes, I guess.
Great. Thank you again.
Thank you all so much.
Yeah. Great job, Stacey.
Thank you.
Stacey, we'd like to present you with this beautiful Texas-sized cutting board. Next time you have to walk across the floor covered with Legos and Mousetraps, just slide this down there and go sliding across.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, up next, we have a break, and then we're back in this room again for the next keynote speaker. Thank you.